Hi everyone, it's Friday and that means it's day 5 of our 8-week knowledge share on LinkedIn, all about how to become investor ready. Now, I don't want to be the harbinger of doom and gloom, but the subject today is 10 more mistakes that startups make. It's really important that you know about the potential mistakes that you can make in the investment process so that you can avoid those pitfalls yourself. So let's get started and get through them. 1. So number 1 is about vision. If you can't communicate your vision for your company, investors won't know whether they want to join you on that journey or not. So you must be able to articulate clearly where you think your company's going to go and how it's going to grow. 2. Team. Team is so important when it comes to investment. People invest in people. And what investors want to know is who in the team is responsible for what, and where have you got gaps and how are you going to address them. And startups who can't tell investors that are going to be falling by the wayside. 3. Scalability. So scalability is critical because an investor wants to know how they're going to make their money back and how they're going to get the return that they're really looking for, whether it's 4 times or 10 times. To do that, you need to be able to articulate how you are going to scale your company. So not just grow your customer base, but scale your company, your people, your process, your technology to cope with the demand that you're going to generate. If you can't articulate that clearly, investors are going to worry that A, you're not the right person to pilot this ship forward, and B, that you probably haven't calculated the amount that you're trying to raise correctly as well. 4. Product market fit. If you can't demonstrate product market fit, if you can't demonstrate traction, people who really want your product, a clear problem that you are able to solve, and that it's a problem that people want solved and are happy to pay for, then investors aren't going to be interested. So startups who can't demonstrate product market fit need to go back to the drawing board. 5. Market visibility. It's more important than ever for companies to be visible in their market, to engage with their customers. So increasingly, investors are starting to look at how much you're around on social media, how much your CEO might be published or speaking at various places, and other ways that you might engage with your customer group. So being able to demonstrate your market visibility is really important. Obviously, the amount that you do can be commensurate to the scale of your company and the age of your company, but it's really important to show that you're doing something. 6. Not interviewing investors. It can be really tempting when you finally get an investor that's interested in your company and says, I can put some money down, to snatch it out of their hand and jump straight into an investment agreement with them. But if you don't have a real dialogue, a real conversation with them, do your due diligence on them as an investor, you could find that you're entering into a relationship that isn't right for your company, and that down the line could end up being a very bitter scenario indeed, and something that you struggle to get out of ultimately. So ask lots of questions of your investors. 7. Not having a well-rehearsed pitch. Now, by well-rehearsed, I don't mean something that sounds over-rehearsed and is definitely a script, but actually knowing your pitch inside out, being able to answer questions on any aspect of it, being able to pitch your investment, your company in 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, 10, is all part of the skill that you need as a founder, as a CEO of your company, to really make sure that investors can engage with your pitch. If you're fumbling around, if you can't remember answers, if you're not sure who in your team is going to answer which questions, back to the drawing board. Number 8, not being prepared for a due diligence exercise. So you've passed over the major hurdles, you've done the preparation, you've got investors interested, you've had a term sheet, and now you're headed into due diligence, and suddenly you've just received a list of a couple of hundred questions about your company and you're not prepared to answer them. What you're about to do in this scenario is drag your investment process out and cause yourself lots of stress by not being ready. So what you can do to avoid that is 90% of due diligence questions are predictable, and you can prepare for those in advance to make sure that you're ready for that exercise. It shows your professionalism as a company. 9, not knowing how your role as a CEO should develop as your company matures. Investors want to know that you can actually mature along with the company, that you're self-aware enough to be able to grow, to develop, to become the person that the company needs you to be as the company itself grows and scales. And if you haven't got that self-awareness, if you can't demonstrate the changes that you anticipate having to make, that can be a real turn-off for investors. 10, MVPs. There's a real tendency in startup world to build an MVP, which is supposed to be a minimum viable product, which actually has a ton of bells and whistles on it. And that means that you end up asking investors for a lot more money than you really need at that stage. And it's a real test that investors will be putting your company under when they're looking at the detail of your raise. Do they really need that much money? £1 million for an MVP of an app? Overkill, total overkill, and something you really need to avoid. You need to really challenge yourself to try and build the minimum thing that you can take out, test with people, and then iterate from there on a monthly, weekly, even daily basis if you need to. Okay, so that's all of the 10 extra mistakes that startups make. I hope you've enjoyed listening to them all and thinking about how you avoid making those mistakes yourself. If you can think of any other mistakes that you've seen or heard about startups making, please share them in the comments. And if you want to continue watching the content in our 8-week knowledge share here on LinkedIn, then follow the hashtag 8weeksinvestorready, or of course make sure that you're connected to me as well. Have a wonderful weekend and we'll see you next week.